The court has sentenced Bo Xilai life in prison, and he will be deprived of political rights for life, and all his personal assets will be confiscated. For more insight into this verdict, we're joined in the studio by Professor Li Zhaojie from Tsinghua University. Professor, finally the verdict is out. What do you make of them?
Well, it's quite within our anticipation.
Life in sentence.
Life sentence, that's right. As we said, the offenses charged against him, very serious violations of law. Also, there are no circumstances to lead to leading to leniency of his punishment. And also, usually for this kind of cases, the party will be deprived of the political life for life, the political right for life.
Actually, there are three parts of this verdict. The first is life in prison. That's quite easy to understand. The second part is he will be deprived of political rights for a lifetime as well. What does that mean? Explain that to our viewers.
This is a sort of what we call the the additional punishment. Well, the principal punishment is life imprisonment, and this sort of deprivation of political right for life is added to the principal judgment. Usually, if you have, if you are sentenced to sort of a certain terms imprisonment, this sort of additional judgment will be applied upon the finishing of the principal sentences. But for this case, usually in life sentence or death sentence, the political rights will be deprived for life. That means he'll be deprived right to vote, to be voted, to political honor, and other political right to serve military service. So he has no sort of freedom to sort of to express his opinions in certain circumstances. So this will, I think, follow the rest of his life.
What about the third part, confiscation of all his personal assets?
This is another form of a punishment for this kind of crimes. All these personal assets will be taken away.
Is it because part of them are illegal?
Not merely that. Even his legal assets can be taken away. As a way to punish him.
So, what do you think is the implication of this verdict?
Well, as I said, a moment ago, this is within our anticipation. But I would like to say that the court, even though the punishment is quite severe, the court still, rule out certain part of charges made by the prosecutor. So that shows that this trial, is not a show trial. The court has exercised function independent from the prosecutor, because a lot of people speculate that there is no judicial independence in China, but this case shows just to the opposite direction.
So what if now we don't know if Bo Xilai will appeal or not, but what if he does appeal? What will happen next?
Well, if he appeal, it will be appealed to a higher court. In this case, the High Court of Shandong Province. He can sort of make appeal within the 10 days following the day of the reading, the announcement of the judgment. And then within 3 days of his presentation of appeal, the court would decide whether to take or not to take this case. We usually that the court will take the appeal. So within 2 months, this appellate court, namely the High Court of Shandong Province, will sort of open to hear through these court proceedings. The court can sort of affirm the judgment of the court of the first instance. In this case, that is the Intermediate People's Court of Shandong Province. Or the court can sort of reverse the verdict and remand the case to the court for a new trial. But I think in this case, that the latter possibility is very, very low.
So this case, if he does appeal, it will end at Shandong High Court, or it can go all the way up to Supreme People's Court?
For the Supreme People's Court, it works this way. because the appellate court will come up with a final decision. If the party, this case Mr. Bo, still cannot accept the final decision, he can make complaints that will be addressed to the Supreme Court, because this is what we call the judicial supervision process. So the Supreme Court will oversee the whole process of the trial, including the first instance of trial and the second instance of trial. If the Supreme Court finds something wrong, he can use this sort of a procedure to correct the wrong. But that process of supervision will not affect the party to serve his imprisonment sentence.
Mm-hmm. So we know that China's new leadership is very determined on waging this fight on corruption, and it's now driving a very strong campaign on anti-corruption. So, and as President Xi Jinping put it, the leadership will fight corruption at every level, from tigers to flies. Do you think this is a tiger-like case?
Of course, because this person is what we call one of those ruling elites in China, mm-hmm. and his former political ranking was so high, a member of Politburo. Mm-hmm. Certainly he belongs to this a circle of tigers.
Rank of tigers.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, mm-hmm. And if not small tigers, high mm-hmm. very sort of strong tigers. Mm-hmm. I think I hope that this case will serve as a sort of a serious warning, mm-hmm. That corruption have no ends, mm-hmm. have no happy ends. Because right now I think corruption in China is still very rampant, and people have quite a lot complaints against this kind of social phenomenon. Mm-hmm. It's a matter of life and death of the country and of the ruling party.
Thank you very much, Professor. Indeed.
You're welcome.
Professor Li Zhaojie from Tsinghua University.